Hey guys, sorry the notes got a little cut off, so I'm going to finish the bottom example. Just a reminder, here are the patterns. Over here we had conjugates and the middle terms canceled, and it was just the first thing squared minus the second thing squared. That's always going to be your answer. It's always going to be a minus. Over here, it was the first thing squared and the last thing squared. And in the middle, you do 2 times the first times the second. This one isn't as much of a helpful pattern. It's not as much of a shortcut as this one is. It doesn't work out as nicely, but it's still a shortcut if you would like to use it. Um, Here's how you might actually use these. If you're trying to find the area of this shaded area, what you need to do is the area of the big one minus the area of the small one. Okay, because if you take this area and you just cut out this little bit, that's what you have left. So the area of the big one is 5x plus 8 times 5x minus 8. And what we're going to do is multiply those together, and then we are going to subtract these two multiplied. These all multiply together. So this is a square. These little marks mean that these sides are equivalent. So this side is also 2x plus 1. And here's the hardest part of this problem. You have to accept that it's going to take you a little bit of time. I'm not going to ask you very many of these questions because they do take some time to work through. They're not that hard, but they do take a little bit of time. So I'm going to come over here, and these are what's called the conjugates because they have the same thing in both parentheses but opposite signs. Okay, so that's where I'm going to use this pattern right here, the conjugates pattern. So it's going to be the first thing squared. So 5x squared. 5 squared is 25. And x squared is x squared. And then minus the second thing squared. 8 squared is 64. Okay? And then over here, you have the exact same thing in both parentheses. The signs aren't different like these. That's where you're going to use this second pattern. So it's going to be the first thing squared. So 2x squared is 2 squared is 4, x squared is x squared. And then in the middle, and let me just zoom out so I don't have to keep moving it, you're going to do 2 times the first thing. And the sign right here is either a plus or a minus. It matches whatever's in the parentheses. So this one will be a plus because there's a plus in the parentheses. And then it'll be 2 times the first thing, which is 2x, times the second thing, which is 1. And then at the end, it'll be the second thing squared. Well, 1 squared is just 1. So I'm just using my pattern here. And then really quickly before I move on, 2 times 2x times 1 is just 4x. So what I need to do is subtract these from this. So I'm going to distribute this negative, which is going to make this negative 4x squared, negative 4x, and negative 1. This side over here stays the same though, because it's not the thing being subtracted. Remember how in 6.1, whenever we had a minus, we distributed it to everything afterwards? That's all I'm doing here. And then I'm going to underline my x squareds. 25 minus 4 is 21x squared. Negative 4x, because there's no other x's to combine it with. And then negative 64 and negative 1 makes negative 65. Okay? And since I made the mistake and made this into 2 videos already anyway, guess what? I'm going to do an example here. So I'm going to do one of these two. I'm just going to choose the bottom one. So I'm going to do number 14 on the assignment with you too. So big one is 10x plus 6 times 10x minus 6. And what you're trying to notice in this one is that this is one of the special patterns, minus 2x minus 1. And because this is a square, that's what those little lines mean. This is also going to be 2x minus 1. It's a square, so all of the sides are 2x minus 1. And then we're going to multiply these together. Whenever you're multiplying two things that have the same parentheses but opposite signs, it's just going to be this one squared. Well, 10 squared is 100. X squared is x squared. Minus this one squared. 6 squared is 36. That's the pattern every time. These are the same but have opposite signs. It's going to be this squared minus this squared. And then over here, we're going to keep this minus for right now. And I'm going to write my answer to this one in a different color. It's going to be this one squared. So 2 squared is 4. X squared is x squared. Then you have to do the same sign as in the parentheses. So this one happens to be a minus. 2 times these two things. 2x times 1. And then the last one is always a plus sign, and it's this one squared. 1 squared is just 1. Then we're actually going to multiply this in the middle. Negative 2 times 2x times 1 is negative 4x. Then I need to take my negative, almost like this was in parentheses, and I need to distribute it. So this is going to make it, this part stays the same. Negative 4x squared, positive 4x, negative 1. So these three things just change signs. And then I'm allowed to add together my x squareds. 100 minus 4 is 96, x squared. 4x, because there's no other x's. And then negative 36 minus 1 is negative 37. So I'm just combining like terms at that point. And that's my answer. Okay, as you guys work through these up here, look to see if they have the same sign, or if they're written like this, that just means you cross out the squared and you write the same thing again. Okay, and then go back to the notes and decide which pattern it follows. Use that again if you need it.